welcome to my plant channel Chlorophyll is the New Black. For those who are new, my name is Carla and this plant channel is about plant projects and plant care. I want to start wishing you a better new year. Let's hope that we can go back to normal soon. For those who have followed me a little bit longer, you know that I haven't uploaded videos lately, and that is because I have been pretty busy and also, well, other issues that come along with the difficult year that has passed. But I hope that this will change this year. Let's start with the video. But I wanted to tell you first a little bit of background on orchids, and this is just like a basic knowledge about them, and that is that orchids are not normal plants. They are not normally potted in normal soil. These orchids are epiphytes, and that means that actually they use their roots not only to feed themselves and hydrate themselves, but they also use it to grab themselves into the tree, so they live actually attached to trees. And throughout their lives, of course, they produce new roots. And normally we buy them like this, just like in a pot. All the roots are put into a plastic pot. And when the new roots are created, many times they don't go into the pot, but outside of the pot. And then people have asked me, so what are those things that are going out of my orchid? And these things are normally roots, and they are just like the other roots. The only difference is that they are more accustomed to air instead of like being in a medium constantly wet. So many people have asked me, so what should I do with it? Can I just cut them because they look a little bit messy? And well, you can do it, but the problem is that you would be generating wounds into your plant, and that allows fungus and also bacteria to enter and damage your plant. So my recommendation is not to do it, but of course it's your choice. And in the case of this video, those roots are the ones that allowed us to recover our orchid in a week. So let's see how it's done. Well, here you can see the orchid that we're going to save today. As you can see, the roots are very brown, they look without substance, they are basically dead, very vapory, and there is no real roots alive in the pot. So you can see that inside of the pot, indeed, all the roots are dried out and basically dead. And on top we have these roots that are still with substance, are a bit silvery, and those are the ones that we are going to use. If we take a look at the leaves, you can see that they are very dehydrated. We can easily fold them. They are actually closed like a taco, and you cannot even see the green part anymore. And I mean, they are very dehydrated. They are very thin and floppy, as you can see. And well, this is not normal. If I would have a healthy individual, if I tried to do this, I would actually break the orchid. So in order to save it, the first thing that we are going to do is to take it out of the pot. So you can see that it was in a media that contained basically bark. And you can see that all the roots have no substance. I can easily press them and they all are indeed dead. So I'm going to proceed by cutting all of the roots on the base of the orchid, the ones that were inside of the pot. Okay, now we have all the roots cut, and you can see that the main stem of the orchid is still actually quite large and is actually dry. So I will proceed to try to cut it, so just to fit it better in the pot when I will try to repot it. And here it is. It is cut in two. As you can see, I was right in the sense that there is nothing alive. You can see the center of the stem is brown. So this is basically the part of the orchid that is left, and this is what we are going to be using for reviving the orchid and proceed with it. First test that I will do is see if the roots are viable. As you can see, I put it under the water and they automatically, like very rapidly became green, as you can see. So that is a good sign. That means that the roots are still available to pick up water, and you can really see the difference between a root that has no water than the one that has absorbed water. And I will proceed to put my orchid roots inside of water. I will just leave it like this for half an hour or so, because orchids are epiphytes. At least this type of orchids are epiphytes, so they grow on trees, so they are not aquatic plants, so we cannot leave them forever in water. But in this case, well, at least not without providing aeration, and in this case I will just leave it for a bit so that it can hydrate a bit and pick up a little bit of water, and I will proceed to do a setup to keep it hydrated. For this I'm going to be using the same pot that it came in, so that plastic pot, and I will be using microfiber. I will cut the microfiber in strings of 1 centimeter wide, and I will proceed to use them to roll them around the roots. As you can see here, I already did it. So what I did is just moist microfiber. I just turn it around the roots, not covering everything and leaving a hole of aeration. And as you can see, I put a little bit of water in the bottom so that the microfiber by capillarity keeps absorbing water and keeps the orchid hydrated during time. Okay, here we can see the orchid after 7 days. On your left side is the orchid on day 1, on your left is after 7 days. You can see that the leaves are actually pretty stiff now. You can see the inside of the leaves. It's not folded that much as a taco anymore. You can see that there is still some damage on the leaves that basically didn't recover, but overall the orchid looks much better. It looks full, the leaves look full, hydrated. And as you can see, if we'll take a look at the roots look like very, very plump and green because they are absorbing water. They are full of water. So you already see quite a difference in how the orchid has advanced and recovered. As well, the leaves are not as wrinkly as before. And I'm still using the microfiber. If I touch the microfiber, as I mentioned, it's still wet. I just kept it moist. And if we see the roots, well, you can see the difference, right? When they are silvery, they are basically dry, and when they are like a vivid green, is because they are absorbing water. How I'm going to proceed is to basically put the orchid in the media that it needs to be put in, and this is normally bark. As you can see in this orchid, it actually has bark chunks, so that's as well what I'm going to proceed to plant this orchid so that we can also put it in a decorative container and continue caring for it. Also, something that I did is, as you see, I cut the dried stem and I just kept it not wet or not moist, just to not stress more the orchid and to not cause any rotting for now. Now I will proceed to pot the orchid. I will carefully take out the microfiber of it, and as I mentioned, I will be using the same plastic pot that I actually washed and disinfected with 70% ethanol. And now I'm placing the orchid inside of the container. That I'm going to try to do it carefully because now the roots are very plump because they absorb water, and I don't want to stress the orchid any further. So I'm going to position the orchid like next to the ring of the pot, since most of the roots grew on one side of the orchid, and basically this is the only way that I can position it to arrange it into the pot. Now I will proceed to put the media of choice, that in this case is bark, and I will continue just filling the pot with bark. Bark is chunky and allows of a lot of aeration, so you have to consider that an orchid is not just a normal plant that you can pot into normal garden soil or plant soil. This type of orchids just grow on trees, and the roots are actually exposed to a lot of air. So it is very, very, very important that when you decide to put your orchid, you do it in a medium of choice that doesn't damage the roots, that provide a lot of air pockets so that the orchid can have aeration. And sometimes, depending on the climate that you live, sometimes it's good if it can retain a little bit of water. In the case that you live in a cold climate, then it's better to have media that doesn't retain that much water, because the roots can very easily get rotten if they stay in media that stays wet and cold for too long, because this will foster that the media breaks down, this produces bacteria, and the bacteria will also affect the roots and therefore cause rotting as well. So we want to put it, distribute it, and as I mentioned, provide a lot of aeration and only water the orchid when the roots become again dry and silvery. That will assure that the media actually lasts longer and that we are not fostering too much bacteria growth. Now that we have the orchid like this, with this chunky media, what we can proceed is actually to put it in a decorative pot and keep taking care of it like a normal Phalaenopsis. So it's been a week since I reported the orchid. It is doing okay. It is of course recovering. I'm giving it the same treatment as all my other orchids, so I'm watering it when the roots are silvery again, and I water it thoroughly and I keep a close eye on it. But I have the confidence that if I treat it well, in a few, could be a year, could be two, but it will recover at some point and give me some beautiful flowers, like this beautiful Phalaenopsis. Anyway, if you like the content, please give it a thumbs up and consider to subscribe to the channel. I will post regularly and I also have some interesting projects that will come up, such as the update of my orchid terrarium that by now is about 6 months old, and also how to pollinate flowers from orchids and how to grow orchids from seed. So keep tuned. See you!